From 1953 to 1987, the public water supply at Camp Lejeune Marine Corps Base in North Carolina was contaminated with toxic chemicals. So for 34 years, more than 1 million soldiers and their families drank, bathed, and washed their clothes in contaminated water that's now causing them terrible, terrible health problems. Thousands of Marines and their families have suffered severe, debilitating illnesses and have died. There is strong scientific evidence that chronic exposure to the toxic chemicals at Camp Lejeune in the water has caused increased rates of cancer and has caused injuries to children in utero. A new federal law, the PACT Act of 2022, was just signed into law by President Biden. This new law provides sweeping benefits for veterans and will allow victims of Camp Lejeune water contamination to seek legal compensation. The act will permit people who lived or worked or were harmed as unborn children at Camp Lejeune between 1953 and 1987 to file a toxic water lawsuit in U.S. Federal District Court in eastern North Carolina. Victims will have a 2-year window and deadline to file a claim, so time is ticking.
When life gets ugly, justice is lovely, the lovely law firm.
Hello, thanks for watching the Carolina Justice Report. I'm Rainey Romero with the Lovely Law Firm. Today we're chatting with partners Justin Lovely and Amy Lawrence all about mass torts, ones that we cover and what they are. All right, Justin and Amy, thanks for chatting today. So, mass torts, what the heck is that?
So mass torts, unlike a single event case, like a car wreck or maybe a workers' comp or a job injury, anything like that, it's different because these are torts that affect several people, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of people have a claim. And essentially, the federal courts have set up a system to, instead of everybody trying to bring every individual lawsuit and have to go through the discovery process, the full litigation process, they centralize these claims and hopefully an MDL if it's created. And what that does is allows us to basically have one set of lawyers do all the discovery one time for all these cases. Okay. And it keeps the cost down for the defense. It also keeps the cost down for each individual person.
And what's an MDL?
A multi-district litigation.
Gotcha.
Is what it's a federal rule, federal process that will allow that to get set up. So what happens is once these are set up, you still have an individual claim that can be it's individual, but usually these cases will settle in mass, allows everything to be centralized to keep the cost down again. And these are the kind of cases that we help with. But the issue is a lot of individuals, especially here in South Carolina, are unaware of certain MDLs that may be set up or new mass torts that they could qualify for if it affects them.
Right.
And if you don't know until you're too late or if a case settles, it's over with.
Yeah. What is that kind of statute of limitations for this?
Well, that's the thing. Normally, you think there's either in South Carolina we're a 3-year state, but some states have 2-year statutes of limitations. In mass torts, really, sometimes the statute of limitations doesn't even apply. It just depends. But generally, you still will have us on a state-by-state basis, the 3-year or the 2-year.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So that's nationwide, not just South Carolina.
They could be nationwide, right? It could
everywhere.
be, yeah. When the MDL's set up, basically every lawyer, whether it's Lovely Law Firm here in Myrtle Beach and Charleston, we're going to put our cases into the MDL. It could be somebody in Tennessee, somebody in California. We'll put it into that centralized MDL court.
Interesting. Okay, so let's chat about some of these. The first one being CPAP. I've heard a lot about this. Tell folks what it is.
So CPAP, for those millions of people have sleep apnea disorders. And in order to have a good night's rest, a doctor will diagnose a CPAP or a BiPAP machine. So the issue with these CPAP cases are if you had a Philips Respironics brand, and there's several brands that have been recalled. You can go to our website, justiceslovely.com, and look at our CPAP page. There's a list of everyone that's been recalled. But what was happening is there's a design flaw where they had foam that was meant to try to keep the noise down while you slept. But the problem was when you're breathing in this air through the CPAP machine, the foam would degrade over time, and you end up inhaling these chemicals. And so, we're still investigating it. Some of the science says that may cause some cancers. It definitely is causing, lung irritation, some breathing issues, a lot of different health problems. So we're looking into those cases. This is a very fresh mass tort that we're looking into, but we think it's going to be a very large mass tort due to the sheer number of CPAP machines that were recalled.
Absolutely. It's terrible when you get something that is supposed to help you and you feel like you're doing the right thing for you health-wise, and it ends up backfiring with something like that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next one, Zantac. So tell folks about Zantac and kind of how that's used.
So we've been involved with Zantac for a while, and we've done other Justice Report podcasts about Zantac. And the thing about mass torts is, as the science develops, the criteria for what will be an actionable case narrows and narrows, and that's what's happened in Zantac. Essentially, with Zantac, ranitidine. Zantac is the brand name. Ranitidine is the chemical name.
Okay.
It's an unstable molecule. Okay, and so when this is either digested, it forms NDMA in your stomach. NDMA could form in the ranitidine molecule itself during storage, during shipment, because these things are being shipped, these pills, to different distribution hubs, then to
They
the
get hot. They're not stored cold.
right.
The stability of it is just.
Yeah. So
And NDMA is what?
NDMA is a cancer-causing carcinogen. Its only purpose is to cause. Its only commercial purpose is to cause cancer in lab animals, in mice.
Yeah.
So what they do is they inject scientists inject mice with NDMA to create cancer
To study it.
to study it.
Yeah.
And so if this is in something, if you're taking Zantac, you're ingesting this. Okay. So that's what the lawsuit is about.
Wow.
And so it's evolved over time. At first, we were looking at a lot of cancers, but just like any mass tort, science and the different criteria develop over time. These are about to go to bellwether trials, and that's essentially where these cases, the plaintiffs' cases, are going to be put up to see how strong is the science. Is a jury going to side with the plaintiffs and give a verdict that will help us? But the cancers have narrowed down to bladder cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic, and stomach cancers. That's what the science suggests if you're taking Zantac and it's going through your bloodstream, the NDMA is being created, and that's kind of the places in the body that the science is supporting for a Zantac case.
And so a part of this case, you have to have been prescribed it, and it has to be a Zantac specifically.
Yeah. So there was a court ruling. At first, we were signing generic Zantac because you can buy it over the counter.
Yeah.
And they've actually changed Zantac. I think it's called Zantac 360. They changed it to a different formula to keep selling that Zantac brand name. But you had to have been, there was a court ruling that got rid of generics. So if you were just taking generics, you don't have a case.
Wow.
Now that could be revived. There's some talk that we're still fighting it as a plaintiff's bar to get that revived. But for now, and for the MDL moving forward, it's only those people who were prescribed and taking brand name Zantac.
Gotcha.
Which, when we learned of this litigation, our little boy had severe reflux when he was born because he was premature, and so we gave him compound ranitidine for 2 years.
Yeah.
My heart sank immediately. I took him to Dr. Pham, our pediatrician. I'm like, make sure he's okay.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I mean, he was, thank God, but like so many families don't get that
Absolutely.
that luxury.
Yeah, and it's so it's scary stuff. They're about to progress to the trial phase.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of know, but we're still taking those cases. You can
Very
still get your
scary.
case in.
Okay, good to know. The next one is neck, and we've done a Carolina Justice Report story on this. So if you want to deep dive further into that, you can check that out. But tell folks that don't know what neck is.
Yeah, so necrotizing enterocolitis. We're looking into those cases if your premature infant was diagnosed with that and then developed neck and either passed away, unfortunately, or survived but has ongoing health issues and health expenses. We're looking into those cases, and that's if they were given Similac or Enfamil as a premature infant and developed neck with a neck diagnosis.
And that's issues in their stomach.
Yeah, that's essentially where their stomach develops perforations because of the cow's milk based formula. They can't digest it, so bacteria just invades their little intestines, and it's a nightmare scenario.
Destroys it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, watch that full episode that we do. We do a full deep dive into those. That's a horrific case, and that we go into more detail on that episode.
And those are still early on in the
Very
investigation.
very early mass tort. It is yet to be centralized, but we expect it soon will be centralized under that MDL system.
Okay. The next one that I've heard a lot, just dealing with you guys, is paraquat. So tell folks about paraquat.
Yeah, so paraquat, we've been looking at hard because essentially here in South Carolina, we have a lot of agricultural areas, the tobacco farmers, the soybean farmers, broccoli farmers around this area. Essentially, paraquat is a weed killer that's been shown to to cause Parkinson's disease. Very bad stuff. 3 drops can kill you.
Wow.
So it's
dangerous.
intense.
Oh,
But
my
they
goodness.
put it on the crop to wipe everything out so there's no weed and the crops come up.
We're eating food with this stuff on it. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So essentially, you have to be a licensed applicator. You can't just go and buy this like a Roundup. You can't go to Lowe's and buy this stuff. This is licensed applicators on farms in agricultural areas are using that for their farm, and they're the ones we're looking at to be exposed. So, and they could have been exposed 20 years ago, and now they're developing Parkinson's. Okay, of course, when you get diagnosed by the doctor, you're doubting yourself. You're like, what could have caused this? Is it
Absolutely.
genetic?
Yeah.
Now, a lot of Parkinson's is genetic, but a lot of it is not. And
Yeah.
it could be because you were exposed to paraquat 20 years ago when you were working in the fields around here.
It's crazy they were able to link those two.
Right.
Well, the good thing about paraquat is that it's highly regulated, and so they have scrupulous notes and records of where it was, where they used it, who bought it. All those things are all centralized, so we know really well. It's very similar to mesothelioma when you go back and you start tracing where they worked, because we have these asbestos places that they've kept
Gotcha.
up with. Same thing with paraquat, highly regulated. So we're constantly digging and figuring out if they were exposed and and there's a lot of it, there, because it takes so long to get this kind of stuff. You're seeing, 20 years ago, like Justin said, the exposure could have been 20 years ago. So we're really backtracking and really deep diving into their histories and where they worked, where they lived, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking on where they lived, this stuff is so toxic. We're looking into cases if you lived in one square mile around a farm
That
where
used
it was applicated.
Yeah.
So we can go back
it's
and
that
pull.
potent.
Yeah, so somebody might say, hey, I've got Parkinson's disease, but I wasn't a farmer. I was in agriculture. What we want to know is, okay, well, let's look into your claim. Did you ever live near one of these application sites? And then we can say, was it within what we think the science will support? Was it within a mile of where it was exposed? And then potentially you would have a claim.
Right.
Now, those won't be as strong a claim, we don't think, but obviously the applicators would be the better cases. But we would still want to look into that for you.
Yeah. And we're still waiting for those trials to be scheduled.
Yeah, it's still early on, but we're about to get those going.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's all these older mass torts, right? So the hernia mesh, talk about some of those that you still keep an eye on.
So the hernia mesh has been going on for years. We're still taking those cases, and essentially, that involves polypropylene mesh that gets implanted during a hernia surgery. It's the most common surgery in the United States. They use faulty recalled mesh, and then what happens is basically your body's inflammatory response just starts attacking that mesh, and it's just a nightmare. So there's all kinds of different issues. We're still taking those cases. They're still on a trial roster through the BARD, Hernia Mesh, MDL, and others. But you still have time to get those in.
Okay.
So that's the hernia mesh cases.
Okay. And how
You
about
need to have a revision surgery though. If you didn't have to get it, if you just say, hey, I got the mesh, I got a case. No, you don't have a case. You have a case if you had a recalled mesh. So we know it was a faulty mesh because it was recalled, and then you had to undergo a revision surgery to either remove that mesh, or a surgeon says you need a revision surgery, but it's just going to be too dangerous for you. So either
Yikes.
revision or the surgeon says you need it.
Okay. And then I know one that, I've been kind of keeping an eye on because I have a lot of veteran friends is the 3M earplug.
Yeah.
So tell folks about what that one is.
The 3M earplug case is, I don't know how they'll ever close this out and settle it. And basically the plaintiff's bar is just, we're trying to try cases as fast as possible to put max pressure on 3M. But that had to do with people who served in war zones. They gave them a faulty earplug. And, obviously you're wearing an earplug thinking you could still hear your commander, and then you've got a war zone going on, and, you're having hearing loss. So that involves tinnitus, hearing loss. Some are deaf now.
And tinnitus is ringing in the ear. A lot of people don't know that's what that is.
Yeah.
But it's that ringing in the ear, and I'd rather be deaf than have ringing in my ear. You know what I mean? Because
Constant annoyance.
yeah.
So you basically had those trials are still set. I mean, they're cranking trials, and plaintiffs have got multi-million-dollar verdicts on every one that's been tried. I think one has been lost. So
So they're really going to kind of run out of money before they get to everybody, you think?
well, it's going to be hard to bankrupt 3M. I mean, it's
It's a
very, very large
Okay.
they make billions of dollars.
Okay.
So the question is, are they just going to keep defending these things one by one, which is costly for both sides? or are they going to try to settle everything out at once? And that's the ultimate question.
Well,
Gotcha.
recently the judge came down and said, we're not postponing these cases. We're not going to do them one by one. Let's do it. And let's try a bunch of them at one time. So plaintiff's attorneys like us, our firm, other firms are taking these cases and they're going to be trying them. And 3M's going to have to answer to all of them very quickly.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll put the pressure on them to make them do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would not want to be any of these companies that have done these things.
Yeah.
So, what about talc?
Yeah, so talc, and this has been in the news lately, it has to do with asbestos in talc, and that's causing ovarian cancer. And what Johnson & Johnson has done, Imerys, the talc miner, has already been bankrupt. They're in the bankruptcy.
What is talc?
Talc is a
Baby
mineral.
powder.
It's
It's what's you see in most baby powders.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's a
I
mineral.
didn't know what talc was. I've never heard of
It's a
that.
mineral mined from the earth.
It's like a chalky.
Okay.
And so what they were doing, they're putting that in their baby powder. Women are using the baby powder that they've been for years, right? It
Your
migrates.
grandmother. I mean, how many? My grandmother. That's all she ever did.
Oh, yeah.
She'd go in
People
the shower and she'd
swore by
baby
baby
powder
powder.
everything. Yeah,
Yes.
Especially the older generation.
Yes.
So it would migrate into the ovaries, and as it sits there for years, I mean, it creates ovarian cancer, and then a lot of these women have to go through cancer chemotherapy, or they pass away, unfortunately.
Hysterectomies, all that stuff.
Yeah, so terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And literally, if you look at when they take a scanning electron microscope of the ovaries, you can see the asbestos crystals, and the only way it would have got there is from use of shower to shower or baby powder, Johnson & Johnson baby powder, and they owned all the market. So I mean, it came from them. So Imerys is already bankrupted; they're out. And so the way Johnson & Johnson is trying to get out of this is this bankruptcy code in Texas, where they can set aside some money into another subsidiary and immediately bankrupt it. So I think they put aside $2 billion into this new company, bankrupted the company, and said this is what's going to pay for these ovarian cancer claims. Plaintiff's bar, we tried to fight it. Judge just recently ruled no, it can stay. However, we think that they're going to force them to put more money in there. So the bad news is, none of those women, I think, will ever be fully compensated, but they will get something. So
Right.
that's the good news with that. And there's still time to file a claim.
Right.
So
With all of these, right?
Yeah, with all these. So essentially, if you have to prove use, so if you use talc, shower to shower, I shouldn't say use talc, but if you use baby powder, shower to shower, any kind of those feminine hygiene products growing up, and you've been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, it's important that we ask the question, could have this happened from talc exposure?
Yeah.
And then you may have a claim. We can
Yeah.
we can evaluate that for you.
Yeah. I also tell people all the time, you don't realize how many products have talc in them. Like, my kids had athlete's foot, and so I bought like Loachman, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the spray stuff, a lot of that stuff has talc in it, and you're just spraying it and it's getting into your lungs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're breathing it. So please be cognizant of the things that have talc in them, because we know now from the science that all talc mines have asbestos in them, and it's just not worth it. Because these companies can be using cornstarch, which
Yeah.
has the same effect. It's cheaper, but the reason they didn't is because they own the talc mines.
Yeah.
So be looking at those ingredients, because that stuff matters, because all we want to do is protect keep our health and protect our families and our children. So
Yeah.
be looking at those ingredients to see if there's talc in something, and if it does, put it back on the shelf and find something that doesn't.
Yeah. Good advice.
And then ultimately, people just don't know about all these cases we've talked about.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the reason we're doing this justice report. Let's get the word out. Let's educate as many people as we possibly can. Spread the word, because, obviously if you get in a car wreck, to call us, but you may have these issues with you or a loved one or in your family or a friend or anybody.
And think it's unique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you don't even know it's a claim at all.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like along the way, like I had a client in for a speeding ticket, and he was telling me about how he has lymphoma. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." He was like 25 years old. He's like
Yeah.
a baby. I said, "What do you do for a living?" As we're talking or whatever. And he said, I've been in landscaping my whole life since I was 15. I've been in landscaping." And so, we ended up figuring out that his lymphoma came from use of Roundup. So we're constantly, we're asking our clients that, being very in tune to this kind of stuff, because who would ever think that this company that you trust is going to give you a product that's going to give you cancer or hurt you?
Yeah.
But we've all seen Aaron Brockovich. We know how this rolls, and we've got to hold him accountable.
Yeah.
in the worst case is the one bad thing about these is once they're closed, they're done because they're making a deal.
And they'll keep selling it.
They'll keep selling it. Yeah.
Like Roundup will,
Or they'll
it
change
will
the label.
close, and they'll change the label and put a warning, and they will still do it.
But you could lose your case, so it's important to get these in before the MDLs close out and settle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. It's crazy to me how these mass torts even start up, because how do you even know that your case could, affects other people too,
Well, it usually begins with an FDA recall.
Okay.
Okay. So we're always watching the FDA website, and they'll pop, like the Exactech just popped up in February. So if we see something where 147,000 knee parts are recalled, that turns them up. Hey, there's something
Why?
to this. Why? What kind of damages are there going to be? Is there going to be some litigation? And and then in all of these, that's been the case.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for chatting about this. I mean, folks, they can head online if they want to learn more about mass torts, justiceslovely.com. And of course, you can always keep up with the Lovely Law Firm on any social media outlet that you consume. Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. There's podcasts. They've got everything going on. Carolina Justice Report drops every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Make sure you stay tuned with us.
When life gets ugly, justice is lovely, the lovely law firm.
Hey guys, it's Rainey Romero with the Lovely Law Firm here for another community service project. So every month we go out to a different organization and we give our time, whether that's volunteering or donating. And this month we're donating to the Grand Strand Humane Society right behind me. You may not recognize this location. It's rather new, but we're at Tanger Outlets on 501. You probably know their longtime location off of Mr. Joe White Avenue, I should say, in Myrtle Beach beside the Myrtle Waves Water Park. But they have both locations right now, which is awesome. They're able to service so many animals, and we're excited to be a part of it. So we are donating lots of goods. They gave us a list, which if you need that list, head online. You can see the list of all the things that they need. But they gave us a list of stuff that they are looking for, and our team, I'm so proud of them. Our team spent all week going to different grocery stores and just different stores in general, getting some of these supplies. So take a look at some of their shopping. So much fun. I love getting those videos of seeing them behind the scenes shopping. So we are gonna go and unload some of these donations. Let's go. So I'm here with Abby. She's one of the kennel technicians. How are you, Abby?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having us here today.
Of course.
So tell folks a little bit, just kind of about, a little bit about the Humane Society. What do you do here? Kind of what are the hours, all that good stuff?
So we are open from 12 to 6, Monday through Sunday. And we do as much as we can to help the homeless animals in South Carolina. We also help our community by doing our low-cost clinic. We do spay and neuters and vaccines.
Okay. So, as far as how you get the animals, tell me a little bit how you get them.
So we can get animals any kind of way, whether it be through animal control or if they're strays that someone from the public brings in or if they're surrendered.
So you take it from the public if people even don't want their animals anymore?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Is there any stipulations for that, for people bringing them in, or do you get overcrowded sometimes?
We are overcrowded most of the time. We usually like to schedule out our surrenders, but with the uptake in surrenders nowadays, it's hard to even schedule them.
Now, this location, we're at Tanger Outlets on 501 right now. Is this newer?
Yeah, so we've been here for probably a year now. We moved here, we had to relocate after our building was getting some work done. So all of our dogs are in our kennels back on Joe White, and all of our cats are here.
Okay, and it's going to stay like this, where it's kind of separated like that?
It will until we are able to get a new building.
Okay. Is that something that's in the works in the future, maybe?
Hopefully, we're working on it.
Well, I mean, it's huge. I mean, you guys have a ton of cats here. I don't even know how that would all fit into one place anymore.
Yeah, if you can believe it, we did actually have all of our dogs and all of our cats here at one time. Thank God we do not have that anymore. That was awful.
So, you have cats, you have dogs. I saw some bunny rabbits in there. Do you have basically any animal, or what do you take and what do you not take?
We try not to take smaller animals like that just because we don't always have the supplies to care for them. But we have, in my time being here, I've seen bunnies, hamsters, rabbits, birds, anything.
And how long have you been here?
2 years.
Okay. And there's a lot of volunteers in there. I mean, that's great to see, and thank you for your time here too. Do you guys need volunteers?
Yeah, we always love to bring on more volunteers. Anyone that comes can help out, and we love the help. We appreciate our volunteers so much.
So walk me through the donation process. I know that you guys have different adoption events that happen throughout the year and stuff. Tell me how that goes, and then if somebody just wants to walk in, how does it work?
Yeah, so we try to do adoption events as often as we can. They're a lot of work, so we try to space them out. But if you're looking to just adopt on a regular day, you can fill out an application online, and then if it's our dogs, we schedule an appointment, usually for the weekend. And if it's our cats, you can come in and fill out an application and take the cat home that day.
Oh, wow. That's exciting. And then the adoption events, how often do you have those, and how do those work? How are they different than just a normal day-to-day stuff?
We try to do them, if it's like a big event here, we try to do them every month. And we do like a fee-waived adoption event, and that brings out everybody in the community, so that's why it's a little different.
Okay. And then is there anything else you would like the public to know about adoptions or anything, any needs you have?
Yeah, so if you're looking to adopt, we'd love to have you come out here. We have tons of great animals, and we always need to bring in more animals, so it's lovely to see them not only to make some room, but to get into wonderful homes as well.
Well, perfect. And of course, I found out a lot of their information from their Facebook page and their website, so you guys can always visit there as well. Thank you so much, Abby.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We've had the best time here at the Grand Strand Humane Society. There's so much need here between volunteering and donations. There's always something that you can do to give back to them, and they would greatly appreciate that. There's so many cute animals here, so you have to come by and at least play with them. I mean, you might leave with one, which is the goal, right? Now, we actually have 2 of our employees that have actually adopted cats from the Grand Strand Humane Society. Let's see if we can see them real quick. Aw, aren't they so cute? So that's Sarah's cat and Amy Austin's cat, which is actually Sarah's mom. So they are cat people. I'm more of a dog person myself, but I still love cats too. But lots of cute animals here. Definitely come by, bring your kids. And thank you so much for having us today. You can always watch us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere that you consume your media. We're the lovely law firm doing our community service project for the month of August. And of course, you can find out more about the Grand Strand Humane Society by visiting their website or their Facebook page as well. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next month.
When life gets ugly, justice is lovely. The lovely law firm.
The water at Camp Lejeune killed Marines and their family members in 3 ways. The first is ingestion, and this is the most common exposure by drinking the water. The second way is dermal absorption. Bathing in showers or children swimming in pools, chemicals in that water seep into your skin. And then finally, the third way, inhalation. These chemicals were inhaled by our veterans and their families.
When life gets ugly, justice is lovely. The lovely